This is what I think of, in Christians, when you're really, spiritually, it's just a hymn, but I love the way this is set. And I think that when we're talking about really surrendering yourself to that feeling of, the feeling of spirituality, which is love. And this talks of Jesus. And I think that Christians, we get confused and think that means worship and praise. I like to think that's what Jesus is trying to say when we surrender ourselves to Jesus. All to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give. I will ever love and trust Him, in His presence daily live. I surrender all. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all to Thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all.
Good Sunday morning to you. It's good to have everyone here. I hope that everyone fared the edges of the storm reasonably well. We did fine at my house. I know that folks have lost power. Some folks lost internet, which is scary, I know. But we are, and in modern life, I'm not joking, it worries me. I live off of my internet at this point. But we are glad that you're here with us at Greensboro Church of the Covenant, Presbyterian Church of the Covenant in Greensboro. Thank you to those online who've joined us as well. You can find out more about us at athinkingchurch.org. For the folks here, we won't be passing the offering basket. It does remain on the back table. If you will remember that as you are exiting today, we appreciate it. Online, you help us be able to broadcast. So if you would go to athinkingchurch.org and find a donate button in the top right-hand corner, we certainly would appreciate it. Also, if you're watching online, if you'll put in the comment section of wherever you're watching, in the location you're from, it helps all of us feel a little more connected and know who we're gathering with today. Again, welcome to this Sunday morning. We're going to begin with a couple of readings. The first one is scripture reading. And I'll be reading from the book of 1 John. It's a brief reading. It's chapter 3, verses 11, 17, and 18. For this is the message you have heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or a sister in need and yet refuses to help? Little children, let us love not in word or speech, but in deed and in truth. May we add blessing and understanding to the reading of these words. I also want to share a brief excerpt from Australian author and counselor Diane Viola. And it's from her book, Travels with Buster, A Journey of Unconditional Love. Buster's her dog. A Journey of Unconditional Love. Sometimes how we learn to love ourselves is by loving others and seeking to answer the question, how may I serve? Rather than, what's in it for me? So, don't wait till you've learned how to do that before entering into your next relationship. Because it is in the context of relationship that we learn how to love and how to let love in, not by sitting on the sidelines trying to work it out. I'm going to ask Stephanie if she would play us a song, please.
Daddy waited up in the kitchen by himself. I came stumbling in with liquor on my breath. He said, girl, I know you live here, but this is still my home. It's my way or the highway, so I said, all right, I'm gone. And before I slammed the door, I said, I hate you. He just shook his head and said, okay, but you can't stop my love for you. It'll be here, that's a given, long as I am living on this earth. One thing is true, you can turn away, forget me, curse my name, but love won't let me let you go. Girl, always know my love is unconditional. Life is like a circus slowly turning on itself. And babe, it took losing you to finally know how Daddy felt. We stood in this bedroom a year ago today, hanging on to pride and anger as we threw our love away. And before you slammed the door, you said, I hate you. But tonight, if only you could hear me say, you can't stop my love for you. It'll be here, that's a given, long as I am living on this earth. One thing is true, you could turn away, forget me, curse my name, and love won't let me let you go. Babe, I always know my love is unconditional. You can turn away, forget me, curse my name, and you can't even let me go. But you need to know that my love is unconditional.
Thank you for that very much. My message this morning is entitled The Love-Compassion Correlation. So most of us are pretty good at showing love to others, whether it's a loved one or even a stranger in need. Most of us are pretty comfortable with expressing love. Receiving love can be another thing altogether for some people. Accepting and appreciating support, acclamation, and encouragement can actually be very difficult for some people. They brush off compliments, they discount votes of confidence, words of encouragement glance off their ears. A surprising number of people can sometimes have a hard time accepting the good things that they are offered, even if they are very genuine and giving themselves. Maybe you are one of them. I know that I can be. I've mentioned before Doctors Harville Hendricks and Helen LaKelly Hunt. They are a married co-authors of a book called Receiving Love: Transform Your Relationship by Letting Yourself Be Loved. And in it, they trace the problem with accepting love to what they call broken receptors. It's part of it's a part of us that can be damaged, they say, in early life, when we are ridiculed or ignored or punished for expressing natural emotions and needs. One of the examples they give is even a simple thing like, if you're going to sulk and be angry, then go to your room until you can be with other people. And as a result, self-protective mechanisms kick in. And as children, some people learn to hide parts of themselves. They grow up to be adults who can act with self-repression and self-rejection, and they tend to discount, deny, or degenerate other people's genuine expressions of love. I have to say, I can definitely agree that this is a cause for some people to have difficulty receiving love, but I certainly don't think it's the only cause. Another common reason for not being able to receive love is prior experience of losing someone you loved, whether it was from death, a breakup, or some other reason, and it's ended up scaring you. Sometimes folks who have experienced this kind of loss spend all of their lives, at least the rest of it, pushing aside opportunities for love that are offered to them on the off chance that whoever's offering it might withdraw it for one reason or another. Frequently, they feel cynical or unsure in relationships, which is not a comfortable or a happy place to be in. Again, it's a self-protection mechanism. You know, social conditioning also has a habit of making us feel wary of being emotional and openly accepting compliments and generosity and caring and kind acts. We can even end up seeing the accepting of such things as being maybe greedy or prideful or a little bit selfish. The authors that I mentioned earlier say that part of the solution is to develop compassion. By first learning to love the other person, they say, you learn to love yourself. And only then, they say, can you take in the love that the other person offers. Giving and receiving, they kind of emphasize that, are a part of the same internal system, so you have to learn both to do either well. Now, I would only add that while I do believe that it's part of learning to love ourselves, and that part of that is learning to love other people, I think that it's particularly true of people for whom we are very aware of their faults as well as their positives. After all, nobody knows your faults or your shortcomings better than themselves, particularly if you're a reflective person. Now, learning to love others who also have faults, particularly if you can see that they have similar faults to your own, can actually play an important role in learning to love ourselves. But let's also recognize that the inverse of this can be true. Sometimes learning to love ourselves in spite of our faults can lead us to loving others more fully in spite of any faults we may perceive them to have. And sometimes, possibly most frequently, it all happens together hand in hand. Our scripture reading today says, "How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or a sister in need yet refuses to help?" What goes on in your head when you hear that? I think it is fair to say that most of us want to be good people. Most of us here probably even recognize the value of the teachings of Jesus and other great spiritual teachers. And most of us strive to be and consider ourselves to be morally and ethically upright citizens. But when we hear something like that teaching, it's not unusual, at least in small part, for our defenses to go up a little bit. What if, we say? What if they're going to buy drugs or alcohol with the money that I give? What if they're pulling a fast one and they just see begging as an easy way to make money? What if they're just lazy and are living off the hard work of others? What if? Let me read that teaching again. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need, yet refuses to help? In that teaching, you will find no qualifiers, no ifs or buts. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods, sees a brother or sister in need, yet refuses to help? It is very human, and one could argue very practical or pragmatic, to ask these questions before giving to someone. Oddly enough, though, just in the way I said that contains the answer to the problem here. You see, it is very human, very practical and pragmatic to ask those what-if questions before giving to someone. But in the end, this teaching is not solely about giving to people. When we reduce this to a question of giving, we make it very easy not to give. But the thing is, this teaching is ultimately about loving, not about giving. But the thing is, this teaching being about loving and not giving can be hard to understand at times. One way to put it, perhaps, would be that we could say that this is about giving from a place of love. And understanding that, let's revisit the earlier statement I gave. But let's switch this time, where I said giving, let's switch that to loving. It goes something like this. It's very human, and one could argue very practical and pragmatic, to ask those what-if questions before loving someone. So is it? I mean, no, I think we all can agree that's not practical or pragmatic to ask what if before loving someone, not in the way we're being asked to. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need, yet refuses to help? It's easy to read this teaching as basically saying that those who are really practicing love will help those in need. But listen to the question again. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need yet refuses to give? How does, or maybe a more precise and helpful translation would be, how can God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or a sister in need and yet refuses to give? Well, that sort of changes a lot there. This spins the verse on its ear. It also seems to be in agreement with what Hendricks and Hunt have to say about receiving love. It's not how can someone who has divine love in them not do these things. It's not that. It's how can someone who does not do these things receive love? That is to say, when we turn our back on those in need, we turn our hearts from love. When our thoughts turn to the self-serving questions of what if, we turn our hearts from love. When we turn some person's basic lack of needs in their lives into reasons to hold on to the abundance in our lives, we turn our hearts from love. When we turn from love because of the cost of giving, be it wealth or be it risking getting hurt, love cannot fully abide in our hearts because our actions have made it clear that we do not want the fullness of love more than we want to ask the what if questions, more than we want to hold on to our worldly goods, more than we want to protect ourselves from possibly being hurt. I make the argument here that Hendricks and Hunt, what they are saying, as well as many other spiritual teachings, and what they're trying to get at is this: if we want to be better receivers of love, and I'm guessing that most of us probably could stand to be a little bit better at that, then we need to learn to love others more unconditionally. And maybe particularly those in whom we are very aware of their faults. When it comes down to it, there really are only two kinds or ways of love: self-centered love and unconditional love. We've all experienced both. Those who are expecting something from a relationship in return love in a self-centered way, even if that something is love. And on the flip side, unconditional love is never about personal gain. It's about loving someone for exactly who they are, taking the bad with the good. It doesn't ask the what ifs. What if I get hurt? What if they're trying to pull a fast one? It just loves. Now, on a side note, it should be said at this point that this does not mean we should tolerate abusive or otherwise unhealthy relationships. Healthy boundaries are necessary in all relationships. The ancient tradition of Kabbalah teaches that we have to share with others and love unconditionally in order to grow spiritually. And while that might seem somewhat obvious to most of us, if we take an honest look at our actions, can we really say that we are good at sharing unconditional love? As humans, we are fallible, as are the folks that we love. From a healthy spiritual perspective, our goals in sharing with others should always be to give love without imposing standards that must be met. When we expect something from other people for our own gain, we complicate the relationship. We become unkind. And when we don't get what we want, we can find ourselves withholding love, even without meaning to. And conversely, when we learn to love more openly and more fully without any expectation from the other person, we soon begin to realize that in doing so, we have expanded our own capacity to receive love. I would make the argument that from a spiritual perspective, one of the key things we need to do in life is to expand our capacity of love for others. Spiritually speaking, a big part of the fulfillment we find in life is directly related to how deeply we are growing in our unconditional love towards others. Let me say that again. Spiritually speaking, a big part of the fulfillment that we find in life, is directly related to how deeply we are growing in our unconditional love towards others. Most people agree love is a basic human need. If we're honest, we aren't always as good at showing love to others as we should be. And equally, many of us aren't quite as good at receiving it as we should be. I believe one of the most surefire ways of increasing our capacity to receive love is by giving love. Love is funny like that. When we give it away, we not only increase our capacity to receive it, but we also tend to get more of it as well. Because you can't diminish love. You can't diminish love. The more you share it, the more it grows. So let us love more abundantly, more fully, more unconditionally.
Buying into the divided line. Separation is the oldest lie, and I'm old enough to read the signs. Every day I'm gonna try to construct the judgment in my mind. Rise above that old paradigm. Use the sun and wearing no blinds. Deep down I know what it's gonna take to reach to this world in a different way. I know that it's my responsibility to show up each moment more lovingly. Every heart I meet, every person at all times is entitled to and worthy of my unconditional love. My unconditional love. Every person at all times is entitled to and worthy of my unconditional love. My unconditional love. Might I be shamed, so I'll put it another way. At a moment in every day where I'm hiding my heart away, I was told it was okay to treat love like it was a game. Only certain people get to play based on what they do and what they say. Deep down I know what it's gonna take to restart this world in a different way. I know that it's my responsibility to show up each moment more lovingly. With every heart I meet, person at all times is entitled to and worthy of my unconditional love. My unconditional love. Every person at all times is entitled to and worthy of my unconditional love. My unconditional love. Nothing's unforgivable. No one's irredeemable. Nothing is more powerful than love that's unconditional. Nothing's unforgivable. Nothing's irredeemable. Nothing is more powerful than love that's unconditional. Nothing's unforgivable. No one's irredeemable. Nothing is more powerful than love that's unconditional. Nothing's unforgivable. No one's irredeemable. Nothing is more powerful than love that's unconditional. Every person at all times is entitled to and worthy of my unconditional love. My unconditional love.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. So at this point, if you don't know that I put out a book of prayers, you probably it's the first time you've ever heard me talking. And it just so happens that one of those prayers is entitled Unconditional Love. So as we enter into this time of our service that is more inward turned, more reflective, our moment of prayer or meditation, I invite you to join me for these words. In a world where you can both love your family and love peanut butter cup ice cream, it can be difficult to truly understand the love we are called to practice. With so many ideas and understandings of love, we provide ourselves with a buffet of choices for how to treat our neighbor and still believe we are treating them with love. May we be reminded that Jesus was never so broad in his definition of love. He taught us to care for those in need, period. To bind up the brokenhearted, period. To feed those who were hungry, to clothe those who were naked, to visit those in prison, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. Love. True love, the love to which we are called and about which Jesus taught us, knows no bounds and sets no limits. May we be moved to be more loving with each person we meet, to show more love to those in need, and to share our love in ways that make this world a better place for all people. And when our earthly desires and our human instincts get in the way and tell us to protect what we have, even as others have all too little, may we be inspired to a life that practices love more unconditionally. Amen. Receive this blessing. May you walk in harmony with each other and with creation, recognizing that we are one. And may you know love and happiness throughout your life. And may your words and actions share that love and happiness with all of those you meet.